colleagues from the Konrad Adenauer Foundation, Professor Vogel and Michael Borchardt, dear colleagues from the University of Bonn, Rector Professor Hoch, Professor Bartels, Professor Hills, dear colleagues from the Ben Gurion University, Professor Pardo. That's right, it was a little bit too much honor for me this morning, but you know, normally it is good to hear something like this. I will talk a little bit about our work, a little bit about the past, a little bit about the future of this work. And perhaps it is good to begin to have a look on the time we are living in. We live in a time of great challenges. Knowledge of humankind will double every 5 to 7 years. More than 20,000 scientific articles are published each year. Knowledge is the most important commodity in our time. Knowledge is also the new social question of the 21st century. War and violence, hunger and poverty today can no more be combated by conquests of land nor by more money, but only by more knowledge. A second thought: in order to build up a stock of knowledge and information in a modern society, I believe it is necessary to have a permanent process of innovation. In former times, it was enough that brilliant scientists had new ideas from time to time. Today, an economy needs a constant flow of innovations, be it from the basic idea of implementation into a production process and consequently into an economic process leading to customer growth and even a new industry. Technical progress is taking place every day. No university, no company, no administration can sit back and rest on what they achieved. Worldwide, a new medical fact is established every 5 minutes. A new physical correlation is researched every 3 minutes. A new chemical formula is developed every 16 seconds. Those who decide for a standstill will fail. But it is also true that technology makes us free and feel secure. Technology gives us a clear look towards the future. However, the dialectic of progress gives us new dependencies, insecurities, and burdens. But together we can find new solutions. Today you have it heard. Remember the start of the cooperation of Israel and the EU 20 years ago. Since 1996, Israel is an associate member of the EU research promotion companies and research organizations get support since the fourth research framework promotion. In our days, Israel and the EU cooperate in the new 7 years program called Horizon 2020. The first idea was to further develop a German-Israeli cooperation to an European-Israeli cooperation. At this time, you have heard it, I was Federal Minister of Education, Science, Research and Technology in the government of the Chancellor Helmut Kohl. And I remember very well, we discussed in a session of the EU Research Minister Council about the fifth framework of research and technology in Brussels. I remember well that I suggested at a fireplace meeting of the European ministers to join Israel to cooperate with us in this framework program. The main topic of this new program we discussed was environment protection. Before making this suggestion, I hadn't discussed this idea with no other country, with no colleague, nor with any other government. And I will tell you that acting this way was an idea from a diplomat, a German diplomat, and the embassy at Brussels, at the EU. And the result was that all ministers, and I believe it well, it was in this time 16 ministers, agreed. And this was the beginning of the cooperation between Israel and the EU and all member countries of the European Union, the community. And I will add, I don't believe, if we had discussed it before, that we had the possibility to have this result. But the most important point after that decision is that Israel took its chance. Today, Israel is a country of start-ups. We heard it on every day, at every speech, at every discussion. Meanwhile, the EU has become the most important partner of the Israel in economy, and thus ranks even before the USA. Today, Israel is one of the big high-tech countries in the world, the second Silicon Valley, or the Silicon Wadi, as it is sometimes called. A great success story. Today, Israel is member of the Eureka Research Initiative and the first non-European state to be associate member of the Seventh Research Framework Program. Israel is the only non-European state to participate in Horizon 2020. Israel's special position also becomes apparent in the fact that it contributes as an important partner to the development of the European satellite navigation system, Galileo. There is, however, not yet a true privileged partnership between Israel and Europe at all levels, at the other levels, had not to do with research, science, and technology. And I will mention it, while it is a point I'm very interested on it. I believe it is one of the great things to do in future, that Israel will be a privileged partner with the European Union in all matters the European is responsible for. Anyway, we need to aim at Israel obtaining full access to the relevant EU programs. And this concerns research and development, but also energy and environmental questions. It concerns media politics as well as youth and cultural programs. We need more cooperation between higher education institutions as well as the integration of Israel in the EU programs such as Erasmus+. Another issue. There was a time when North Rhine-Westphalia, the federal state, you have heard it, showed a stronger commitment to Israel than other federal states did. There are a number of cities who have partnerships and exchange programs for education are established, programs for research and science. And the idea was that these steps, if you want to have little steps, can help us to find a way for peace in the region and the main point, for peace for Israel. In this context, I mention the successful scholarship program for young Israeli scientists. I mentioned the support of the Center of European Studies at the IDC Herzliya. I mentioned the training program for teachers from North Rhine-Westphalia at the Holocaust Memorial Yad Vashem. And you have heard it. Presently, Dr. Borchardt, the representative of the Konrad Adenauer Foundation in Jerusalem and the University of Bonn and the IDC, make strong efforts, and we discussed it yesterday on a meeting at Herzliya, strong efforts to build up further research institutions. And I have the feeling Professor Hoch, after the debate yesterday, will find a solution in not a long time, and the next time at the beginning of the next year. Together, Professor Bardo has told of it, we have with the Bologna Training Center at the Ben Gurion University in Beersheba and in cooperation with the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, a very, very important project for the future. It's the idea that all 56 universities, right, or have I heard 63, I think like this, all universities in Israel would be partners of the European higher education area, the Sorbonne-Bologna process. And I believe the political point is that these relations are very important, that in Israel the trend to isolate the Israeli politic can be stopped. And that's the main point. Israel is, in our point of view, and I believe you agree, part of the European world. He has the same values, the same idea from the common way of life on the basis of European, of Western values, of the rights of men, and the idea from democracy. European higher education should be a, that's my third point, a renaissance of an old reality. We want to draw on a rich transition. I'm sure that you know that in the 13th and 14th century, there exists a European Republic of Scholars. The universities established around the time, such as the Sorbonne, but also the University of Bologna, of Cambridge, of Lisbon, of Prague, of Krakow, and Professor Vogel, surely Heidelberg, and also for us, Cologne also in this time was founded. They were unprecedented in history. The scholars and students were part of the European community in this time. They traveled from university to university all over Europe and created an intellectual network without borders. Then, as now, a unified landscape of higher education required three elements. It had to be diversified and could not be dogmatic. And such is the character of Europe. The character unity in diversity. Second point, higher education had to be connected to values. Therefore, the Sorbonne-Bologna process is also a spiritual process. We are not only dealing with organization and money, but primarily with the foundations of our Western culture. In the Western world, we have seen it at the US presidential elections, we saw it at the post-truth campaign of Brexit. The Western world has big problems to become aware of its basic values on which its Western way of life founded. Last month, we learned that this post-truth policy does not tell us the truth. We have learned that the largest information platform in the world is Facebook. 44% of the Americans consumed the news or what they believe to be the truth only from Facebook. Many people who go on Facebook do not know that the chief editor of Facebook is not a human kind. It is an algorithm that gives you only the news that you believe in for. Chancellor Merkel reminded us that algorithms make us believe that all other people have the same opinion as we have. Therefore, she requested more transparency about how contents are filtered. Some of the unifying questions we have to deal with today are, therefore, the following. Where do we come from? Who are we? Where are we going? What is right? What is wrong? What should we do? Today, almost nobody anymore has the courage to give clear answer to those questions. But those are the questions situated at the core of what many call the conflict of cultures today. People no longer say, this is right, this is wrong. One does not do that. Today people say, in my opinion, this is right. It is important for our democracy to call a lie a lie. A politician who lies is not a populist. He is a liar. Clear demarcation lines between true and false, knowledge and lack thereof, human and nature, good and bad, just and unjust, hardly exist anymore. They are replaced by relativism and whateverism, with the assumption that everything is indifferent in principle. The so-called postmodern period has cut down the very foundations of European culture. If we do not struggle against the idea of a post-truth world, the project of Western ideas and values will come to an end. That would be a fall back into a dark age before enlightenment, a fall back to society without a future. This has, ladies and gentlemen, political consequences. Those who think like postmodern people are distancing themselves from politics, committed to normative expectations. This is the reason for the lack of a political vision of the future. We hear talk of the end of utopia and of the implosion of the future. When a political approach lacks a substantial concept of humanity, we cannot create a future. A genuine dialogue of cultures is not possible either. Anyone who does not have a viewpoint of his own cannot put himself into another person's viewpoint. But there are some valid values that deserve and require a collective connection. There is a right life that needs to be protected from the false. If we cannot win back our culture, the danger of nationalism, fundamentalism, and fanatism increase. Those are substitute solutions, irresistibly attracted by spiritual vacuum. The spiritual unity of Europe is unthinkable without European universities and institutions of higher education. There is the cultural memory of Europe situation. This is where ourselves and our understanding of the world have been shaped since the Middle Ages. And those institutions must take upon themselves the task in the future too. That is the reason why the Sorbonne Declaration states the following. We should not forget that Europe is not only that of the euro, of the banks, and the economy. This, ladies and gentlemen, was written 10 years ahead of the collapse of Lehman Brothers and the beginning of the global financial crisis. In too many places, university policy was and is seen under the aspect of economic value and international competitiveness. Those are important issues, but it is high time foreground the importance of our university for our culture. Universities are not business. They do not have to make profit. They are committed to the truth and nothing else. Truth in explaining and understanding nature, truth in self-knowledge. Here lies the Western heritage which we need to cultivate. And here also the common foundation of Israel and Europe. Europe's values are founded on 3 hills. You know it. On the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, the Acropolis in Athens, and the Capitoline Hill in Rome. From here, Western civilization started, as did the human rights, democracy, and the idea of progress for a better world. We must work together to make a better world. If we want to save our democracy, it is necessary to fight for the best system of rule and life together in peace and freedom. If we don't, the post-truth time is the beginning of a post-democratic era. Thank you.